Good morning, this is Dwayne, and today I'd like to take up suspensions. Suspensions are a kind of chord that confuse a lot of people. You see chord symbols that might say F7th sus, a little sus after the notation F7th, or G7th sus. Usually there's a seventh with it, but it could be just just a major chord like C sus. And what that means almost always is that the fourth takes the place of the third. So a triad, a major triad, is like that, a root, third, and fifth. So a sus, a suspension, is where the fourth takes the place of the third. Now there's a couple exceptions to that which I'll talk about in a minute, but let's take the 90% of the time it means that. The fourth takes the place of the third. So if your notation was C7th sus, then instead of playing E, you play F with the C7th chord. If the chord was C minor, 7th sus, you'd still play the very same chord as you would with C sus, okay? Because the fourth is taking the place of the third, and it's the third, as you know, that determines whether a chord's major or minor, okay? So a sus is simply where the fourth takes the place of the third. So F sus, let me do it in the left hand here. Here's F. Here's F suspension, the fourth degree of the scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, takes the place of the third degree of the scale. So F7th sus would be like that. G7th sus would be like that. And you hear a lot of that kind of thing. Quite often you have a suspension before it resolves, okay? You're on the suspension. That kind of thing, and it resolves. That's the suspension, A flat suspension in this case, A flat 7 suspension resolving to A 7. Here's A suspension resolving to A7. Here's B flat sus resolving to B flat. Here's B sus resolving to B7. Here's C7 sus resolving to C7. Here's D flat sus resolving to sorry, I have a cough this morning. D flat 7th. Here's D suspension resolving to D7. Here's E flat suspension resolving to E flat. Here's E suspension resolving to E7th, and we're back to F. Okay, so a suspension is simply where the fourth takes the place of the third, usually temporarily. It's usually kind of a passing situation like that. Now there's another kind of suspension that's come into use in relatively, say, the last 20, 30 years, and that's, it's like an impacted note. It's called sus2, and what that means is you include the second note of the scale in the chord. Like if you saw C sus2, you'd play the C chord, but you'd include the second degree of the scale in with it. So you have that kind of sound. Okay? It's usually, it's kind of muddy down there, so usually you hear a sus2 higher on the keyboard. There's an F sus2, you see it's the F chord with the second. Here's a G sus2. Sometimes you hear it as kind of an offset twang, like that kind of thing, okay? And sometimes you hear it as that kind of thing, okay? So anyway, the second degree of the scale is a sus2, all right? So generally a suspension means, or a sus, S-U-S is short for suspension, means replace the third with the fourth, okay? But sometimes, if you see a 2 by it, it means include the second degree of the scale in the chord. Okay, that's it for today, and tomorrow I think we'll take up alterations, so we'll see you then. Bye-bye for now.